the BUL Armory Axe C, an affordable alternative to the Axe C Tomahawk we've reviewed previously on this channel. It still packs quite a bit of punch and brings you a lot of the features that make the Axe C Tomahawk so awesome. In this tabletop review, we'll take a look at what comes in the box, a peek at the manual, go over fit, finish, and features, show you how to field strip it. We'll do some trigger talk, of course, and do some chamber support check. All that coming up next on GBGuns. So when we did the Axe C Tomahawk, a lot of you had a lot of feedback, including some various things. Now, I'm going to mock at them a bit as I did on the Instagram post, in that either you were a ninja and concerned that the stainless finish was going to give away your position, or you like to get into brawls and gravel pits and you were worried that the window slide was going to be causing malfunctions. But in general, yes, this is a expensive piece to make, and so it was not an inaffordable gun, or not an easily affordable gun. And some of those complaints were valid. Some of these features, some of the stuff like that beautiful stainless spiral fluted barrel, are not absolutely necessary. And yet folks still love the frame, love the trigger setup that's on these things. Oh, so nice. And wanted a way to get into a BUL Armory axe without necessarily dropping the money that this thing costs. BUL Armory was aware of that and has released this version. You notice right off the bat that it's in a classic plastic hard case, unlike the Tomahawk, which came in a really nice zippered bag with all the pouches and things. Really, really fancy presentation. This is a bit simpler, but this gun costs, at the time that I'm filming this, less than half what that other one did. So it's going to be some savings in some places. This is pretty much the way it came. Now, it was double bagged because this pistol had to make the trek from almost the opposite side of the world. These are made in Israel, imported into the US via Florida, and then from Florida had to make it up here to Oregon for us to film it. So this little pistol has had quite the trek. You get a nice high quality BUL branded chamber flag. You get two 15-round magazines. These are BUL Armory magazines. They've got the extra wide base plate to match that cutout there and work for stripping a mag if you don't know how to clear a Type 3 malfunction. And they do have metal reinforcements at the feed lip, as well as this kind of salmony red follower to be a nice obvious indicator of when you're empty or doing a check. You get two of those magazines. The other one is in one of these velvety plastic bags. We have our federally mandated lock, a little caution warning us that you run the risk of serious injury or death if you don't follow the manual. So that's what we'll do next. The manual comes in a baggie along with more stuff. BUL Armory still doesn't cheap out even if you're getting a less expensive model. We have a metal cleaning rod and two brushes. You get a decal. You got three with the fancy one, just one with this, but it is of an axe, although it's an axe Tomahawk. I think that's kind of funny. We have the three different levels of trim shown on the manual. And let's take a look inside. So of a bifold design, very simple manual. In fact, I think it's been a while, but I do believe this is different than the manual that came with the Tomahawk. But they use photographs instead of renderings, which can be nice for showing detail. Renderings do make it easier to highlight certain spots. However, considering that this is based on the Gen 3 Glock design in general, most people are already going to be familiar or know someone who's familiar with these pistols. The manual itself is pretty straightforward, nice large font there to make it really easy to read. I did not see anything in here about ammunition. However, I'm going to assume that it's okay for plus P ammunition, since basically American plus P ammo is roughly the same pressure as what a lot of the rest of the world uses. Let me get this out of the way and we can take a look at the pistol. Looking at these two side by side, the Tomahawk and the Cleaver, you might be wondering, where did they save? Because the frames look practically identical, and I believe they are. The triggers as well. Well, we know they saved on the manual and the packaging. Believe it or not, anything that costs the company something gets passed along to you. So they got that simpler case. The main saving spot is in the slide. You notice that the cleaver on the bottom is significantly simpler in cuts than the Tomahawk. All the way around, the Tomahawk is optics ready, the cleaver is not. We do have an aluminum guide rod instead of steel or polymer. Nice middle ground there. The aluminum is going to be smooth, it's going to provide for smooth operation. It's stronger than the polymer would be, but not as much weight as steel. That's because this is oriented more as a carry gun. This is sort of your performance carry to light competition type gun. So it makes sense to keep things practical with the cleaver. And that's the name of the game, but not practical in the boring sense of let's make this cheap and simple pistol. I'll show you guys some of the neat design that goes into this. There are a lot of Glock Gen 3 inspired pistols out there. The patent's expired, and due to Glock's lack of really changing much over the generations, just because it's 2 generations behind, it doesn't really mean you're missing out on anything, especially with the aftermarket, massive aftermarket that already grew to make up for Glock's lack of progress. This frame, you can see we've got a nice texturing on the sides here to make it easy to get your hand there and not interfere with the trigger finger regardless of side. As I get my finger up here, you see this ledge. You can see how it protrudes as an index spot for your trigger finger and an excellent spot to rest your support hand thumb to apply pressure and really control recoil. We experienced this when we did the Tomahawk, and I have no doubt the cleaver frame, since it's the same thing, is going to do the same for us. I've already shown the pistol is clear. Sorry, let me back up, guys. I forgot a few steps in the GBGuns process. Pistol is clear, obviously. Check for magazine release or ejection. And it is certainly magazine release. It's not going to kick it out. Now, it may or may not be a function of the fact that these are polymer magazines. Polymer to polymer has a lot more friction than a steel magazine. That's one of my biggest gripes with the Glock platform was the original magazine design. Yes, they are very reliable. However, you do miss out on, I mean, they've dropped free, but that little bit of friction is probably what's preventing that from kicking out much for us. With that out of the way, we can take a look. Starting up front, you can see we've got these cuts, which look a lot more dramatic from there on camera than they do in person. But that little bit of cut there, that's helping lighten the slide a little bit and reduce your reciprocating mass. How much mass is doing this? Nice deep grooved rail with 3 slots. No texture on the front of the trigger guard, but it is a little bit scooped. So for those of you that like to use the support finger grab on the trigger guard, you have a place to do that here. Do have a slight second undercut in that this raises up. You can see there's a lift there and a nice deep undercut here that is rounded enough, enough so that my XXL glove hands do not get Glock knuckle and wrapping onto this. Looking at the texture on the front strap, we can see that we have these shapes here, which are angled upward, as they should be, because under recoil the pistol tries to do this. So that's going to provide traction to resist rotating in your hand that way and let this pistol settle nicely back down in your hand at the end of the recoil cycle. We do have a little bit of a toe kick there. Is that enough to prevent me from getting my finger pinched? This is my dreaded thing on guns of this size. I say that because I had a Glock 19, well, I still have it, that I took to numerous training courses, even used in competitions, and because the frame size hits my hand there, when I do, I'm afraid to do it, that I get my hand pinched. And so I almost PTSD, car accident fear level, bring my pinky away on guns of this size. I have to consciously tell myself to hold there. Where I do feel a little bit of getting hit in the palm is from the back end of this base plate, but not a big issue. And as you can see with the magazine all the way in, there's not going to be a pinch happening there. I will, you guys watching the range video, I'm going to do my best to not freak out and kick my pinky out every time I put a mag in this gun. But it seems like, there we go, just train it, no pinch. Something that I would have to get used to, but nice design with that toe kick. That toe kick also helps control against muzzle flip. If you're flexing and you have good grip down here, that helps keep the nose of the gun down. The texturing on the side, though it looks similar, is not nearly as aggressive, which is good because it doesn't need to be. And on the back, we're back to the same traction style that's on the front strap, which goes right back into the whole gun rocking thing. I think maybe I would have angled these downward to prevent them from doing that instead of resisting this way. Whatever, I'm not a gun engineer. Looking at our slide to frame fit, got about the standard amount of play from this platform. As you'd expect, barrel lockup, of course, is tight. We have a 3-dot sight system. They are, of course, a Glock sight cut, so it can be swapped. In fact, I'm going to use this gun for a video doing for my publisher for swapping sights. Nothing wrong with these, just can use something Glock pattern, might as well grab this. Coming around the right side of the gun, we see we do not have a slide release. We do have a reversible magazine release, though, should you want to flip to the other side. Now it's coming close for some trigger talk. This is an aluminum trigger. Safety dingus, of course, works. Come back to about the 90 and hit a wall. Feel pressure build, but no real creep, and then it breaks. Reset. Authoritative, audible, tactile. Right back at the wall for another break. Now, if you want full specs on all this, check out GBGunsDepot.com. That's where we'll post all of that, as well as the pricing, since YouTube seems to think that whenever we talk numbers that we're trying to sell things. That's not what we do here. All right, we've had a look at the gun. Let's take a look inside the gun with a field strip. As I prepare to field strip this, I do want to comment on the depth of these serrations. They are good and grabby, but of course this gun seems to rack fairly easily. Give you a look at the depth there and texture. Now we can come out for the field strip. So field stripping this is just like many other modern polymer striker fired guns. We're going to release the striker, which after checking that the gun is clear. Then we've got these pull down tabs on both sides. You're going to pull down on those, bring the slide back about 1/8 of an inch. You'll feel the tabs release. They'll come down. I won't be fighting them anymore. And now the slide comes off the top. From here we can take a look inside the frame. And then to remove our barrel, I'm going to add some pressure to the spring to unlock it and bring it loose. You can see captured spring on aluminum rod. Tap the barrel to unlock it, bring it down a little bit, and then it'll come straight out the back. Nice stainless barrel and beautiful machining inside the slide. I don't see any machine marks. We do see a little bit of color there from the PVD process, and we can see where the barrel hood is going to be wearing on this. That's just natural. You can see we've got the nice rounded taper style firing pin block safety, but everything else is just like your Gen 3 Glock. Next we'll take a look at chamber support, and I do want to show you that this barrel has a little bit of crowning. The camera can focus on it. There you go. The crowning is that cut on the inside edge there that helps protect the rifling should the barrel ever land that side down, so you're not risking slick. You're not risking damaging the rifling and then causing accuracy issues later on down the road. So for chamber support, what we want to see is how much of the brass is supported inside the chamber. This is a little bit dirty. I can see some fouling in there from test firing, so might not be perfect, but we'll see. I'm going to drop around and listen for a plunk. You can kind of get a feeling and see how the brass is sticking out a bit. That's because we've got a dirty chamber. Let me clean that chamber out real quick and we'll see what's going on. Interesting results. So I just passed a snake through there and cleaned everything out and end up with the same thing, the same amount of brass sticking out exposed. That's beyond normal. So I grabbed a snap cap, which may or may not be to spec, and it goes in just fine without issue. So I cannot make a judgment on this chamber yet. If regular ammunition is going to fit like that, I don't think this pistol would fire. So either the ammunition, and I grabbed a different round from the same box, either the ammunition's got an issue or this chamber's got an issue. What we would like to see, ideally, is full support like this. You see how there's no exposed brass on the shoulder. Now typically a Gen 3 Glock does not have support underneath here at the feed ramp. However, there are some aftermarket barrels that do. Since BUL Armory makes their barrels, it'll be different. I'm curious. This will be an interesting range test. We'll have to get out and see what's going on. It's also kind of sticking. If I push it in to try to get it any further, it's not coming out clear. Let me try one more brand of ammunition. All right, here's a round from Liberty, and these are nickel plated, so super slick. And it's dropping all the way in. Okay, so it must be that that nozzler is out of spec somehow. There's no issue here. However, if it can detect that well, that's a tight and very nicely formed chamber. Might be match enough to have issues at What's for Dinner. The What's for Dinner test is sort of a crowd favorite here on the channel. We're going to run, in total by the end of the video, probably 12 different loads, but in the What's for Dinner test itself, 10 different loads of ammunition using different casing materials, different projectile types, etc. to see what the gun will and won't eat. We try to throw some obscure ones in there for just curiosity, and also some common loads that you might consider running through this gun. You saw how I got the slide back together, and before I put the slide back on the gun, I'm curious what the weight difference is between this Axe-C and the Tomahawk slide. So let's see what you're losing, gaining. I don't know, how do you guys look at it when there's more material to the slide? I just tried messing with the lights to get this to be clear on camera for you. You can kind of see it, it's zeroed out, and I'll just read it to you. Now I did notice that the Tomahawk has what appears to be a stainless guide rod versus the aluminum that comes in the Cleaver. So since that's not reciprocating, pull that out, and your Cleaver is 15.3 ounces of mass moving around. Keep in mind that mass adds to your perceived recoil. However, that's also part of the mass that shoves the next round in the chamber and can help with reliability. So 15.3 ounces there. And in our Tomahawk slide, 13.8 ounces. So ounce and a half or so of difference. Now we can reassemble, and while you watch that, because it is pretty simple, I'll tell you what else will be in the range video is our multi-mag test. Since this is set up for Glock cutter magazines, we'll take a variety. I think we have 8 or so out there beyond the BUL Armory magazines, and see which ones run in the gun and which don't, in case you have a pile of magazines and are concerned about something working or not. Now keep in mind that that's a sample size of 1 on some used magazines. It may not be an absolute representation. But unless we bought all of the magazines, we couldn't do it definitively. That would be a very long and boring video, and if we bought all the magazines, you guys wouldn't have any magazines. So it doesn't make sense. Anyways, that is the Axe-C Cleaver tabletop review and field strip. We'll see you guys on the range. Thanks for watching. One more thought on the weight difference in slides between the Cleaver and the Tomahawk. What's another difference between the slides? Tomahawk is optics ready. What does your optic weigh? Well, usually around an ounce, maybe up to an ounce and a half. That's the difference. Not optics ready, has that extra ounce and a half or so. Optics ready, and has shed the weight that your optic will add. That allows this to perform like a normal gun with an optic on it, or cycle faster and have less recoil without an optic. I know it's only an ounce, but it's just a thought. Chew on it. Thanks again.